for the notification. That's interesting. I wonder if it doesn't start until the start time. There it goes.
Up and ready to go.
There we go. All right. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Caffiene and Crusade Tier List Edition Part 2. So we thought it would be a good idea to do another tier list because, one, we haven't done one since the Codex dropped. That was, 8 months ago. A good bit of time, a good bit of things have changed since then. But also, here we are 1 year into 10th edition, and, we felt like, hey, it's time to, take a sort of look back and see see where we've come. I do have the old tier list pulled up, so we'll see where we rated them compared to now. But also, we are on the cusp of a new season of Warhammer, as they call it. PARIAH NEXUS is on the verge of release. I think next month is what GW said when it will be coming out. So that's exciting. They've revealed some information about that. I think we have enough information to kind of infer some things about units and how good they'll be going into the next season of Warhammer. So we've still got a lot of Space Marine units to cover. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in and start off with. We're going to do this. I'm going to go through the app here and just go alphabetical through every unit, and then we will do our Black Templar units at the end. And if we have time, maybe we'll do a little rejigging of like rating within the tiers themselves. As always, we've got S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier, which stands for don't take it because it's terrible, awful, don't use it. So without further ado, let's take a look at our first unit, which would be the Aggressors. Now, they did take a little points nerf some time ago. I don't remember exactly when. They're now 120 points. They're now, slightly more expensive, but still worth every point that they cost, especially in Gladius and Firestorm. In Righteous Crusaders, they're fine, I think. But we don't have anything to like buff their shooting. So that's kind of the downside of taking them in Righteous Crusaders, and why you don't really see them in Righteous Crusaders. Like, I'd rather take Terminators, to be honest. They're more durable. They don't have the difference in their shooting isn't that much if you take regular Terminators, or you can take 4 wound Terminators instead. So, but in Gladius and Firestorm, they are still absolutely S tier units, in my opinion. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're combo pieces. So first off, if you hear anything with my mic, let me know. If it's too low, let me know. I think I fixed my issue. So
Yeah, like Bob said, if we have audio issues, please let us know early so we can fix that. I know sometimes in the past we've had some audio issues, so we want to get that corrected so that way on rewatches, everybody can hear us clearly and not too loud or not too soft. So in any case, go ahead, Bob.
all right, so they're kind of combo pieces to
Yeah.
a couple of those detachments. If you're not using the combo pieces, like especially in Gladius, where you're making or the biologists go with them with our enhancement to combo off. I feel like they're not as good. They do put out a withering amount of firepower to chaff,
Yeah.
but because of that, uh, I really wouldn't rate them higher than B, honestly, because they really need that combo enhancement piece to really to function, to be really kind of top tier on that. I've played a lot of games with them, and I did do them in Righteous Crusaders. I gave them a little bit of a 5+ feel no pain action in a cold, but it wasn't where it needed to be. It drew a lot of attention. They're not durable enough without that invulnerable save. I think they're a B+, so top of the B tier, honestly.
Yeah, in Righteous Crusaders. So yeah, I would agree.
A lot of attention. They're not durable enough without that.
So so yeah. Give me 1 second here. I lost my chat box. So view docs. In any case, Bob, I'll let you start talking about our next unit, which is going to be the Bog Standard Ancient.
All right. Well, this guy you're not going to be taking in too many different places. We all know his little ability that he gives us. Obviously you're going to get the 1 to the objective secured. Objective control characteristics of the models, and then you get that feeling of pain if you're within an objective range. But there's not too many units that we really kind of want to put this guy in. He takes up points that we really kind of need for other things in the thing. His partner in crime, a different armor might be taken in some lists, but even at the 50 points that he's currently at, I think he's just
I'd rather take
there.
something else like an apothecary. Yeah, I agree. He's he's cool looking model. That's about it. He doesn't do anything that we really need for his points cost. His buffs aren't meaningful enough, and he just doesn't. Well, objective control is nice, but generally, though the units that he can go with is going to be OC2 anyway, like a Crusader squad or something like that. So I just don't really, I really don't see him in anything, but don't take him D tier.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next Ancient. This is the Ancient in Terminator armor. Now, last time we put this guy, let's see, where did we put him? He was in, which by the way, so far, both Aggressors and the Ancient were both in their respective tiers where we had them last time. The Ancient in Terminator armor, I'm trying to find him in this list, on the old list. But I think, and honestly, thanks to our good friend David Anderson, you may know him as Orion on the server. He is been running a lot of Terminators recently, trying to win a major with them, or a GT. He's kind of cooled on his love of Terminators. But he says his assessment the last time he and I talked was for your local meta, for RTTs, they're great. You can win a bunch of games with them. If you're trying to win a major or a GT, maybe a local GT would be okay, but like some of the bigger GTs, he says you're just gonna struggle because it's such a huge unit. They take up so much. So many points. He found himself either people were just ignoring them or they were getting crushed by them. So the Ancient Terminator armor, he was testing it a lot as an alternative to the Chaplain in Terminator armor leading these guys. And last time we rated him a C tier. Um, but based on David's experience, I think he's definitely going to be coming in much higher than that. He does give +1 to hit, which is not quite, once you lose a model, not quite as good as the flat +1 to wound. But then once you're below half strength, so you got 5 models or less, or 6 models or less, you're going to be getting that +1 to wound on top of that. And he gives the whole block +1 OC. So David said he was having a lot of success with that. Based on that, I think that he might even be like A tier. What do you think, Bob?
I wouldn't go that far. I would say, okay, maybe
Top of B tier.
We bring him to B, but I could see that there's some play with him. I personally prefer the Terminator Chaplain.
I do too, because the model is way cooler.
But I can see the allure of having the OC2 on a Terminator, but I'm not willing to buy into an A tier on this guy. B is okay.
All right. So yeah. So we will go with high B tier for him. So that brings us to another character, our regular Apothecary. And last time we had him in C tier. How do you feel about him now, Bob?
I'm still going to go with the same. He really is only a fixture with two units, whether it be the Devastator squad or the Hellblaster squads.
Yeah,
and that's
he's
kind of
great with those units, but otherwise you're not probably taking him at all. So yeah, I would agree with that. Next up is the other Apothecary, the Biologist, or as some folks in our server like to call him, the Pharmacist. A pharmacist who harms you, the Pharmacist. We had him in B tier, and I kind of feel like he's still pretty much there. Like the Apothecary, he only really goes with 1, maybe 2 units. You're not going to be running him just to run him. You want him with Aggressors in Firestorm, Gladius. In Firestorm, you don't want him with Aggressors. He doesn't do anything for them. So yeah, I think he's still gonna be in B tier. What are your thoughts?
I would say his utility is still great, but he is only useful with the Aggressors, basically.
Yeah, maybe Eradicators, a full squad of Eradicators, but they just don't have a lot of volume of shots. So
yeah,
they do have full rerolls, which helps with the lethals, but it's tough to put him anywhere above B tier, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would put him bottom B tier.
Okay.
He's still really good and essential for that Gladius Aggressor combo. Is essential for that.
But if you're not running that detachment, then he's not very useful to you. All right, so next up is the Assault Intercessor Squad. So these guys got a points drop recently. They are now 75 points. Yep. And they are also battle line, which is important to note because in PARIAH NEXUS, battle line will become more important than ever. So, being able to score points off of mission rules with battle line units for at least one of the missions, and being able to do other things, with your battle line units. So, does their stock go up? We had them in middle bottom B tier in our Codex drop edition of this. Where do you think they are now, Bob?
I think they are going to shift a little bit in the same tier. I think they're going to be towards the top on this. Now, it's simply going to be based off of the need for battle line, and they are a cheap battle line that you can get in.
Yeah, only 75 points now, which is really cheap. A lot of our Discord members like to run the Emperor's Champion with them for a cheap 150 point unit. They kind of buff the EC a little bit. They give him the rerolls to wound. The thing is he's going to be wounding most things on 2s anyway, so it's a bit superfluous. But it's still a buff, and it's a buff to themselves as well. So could be that one mission that they previewed where you can put have battle line come in turn 1, but it has to be less than 200 points. We talked a little bit about that in our video, where you can get the 200 points worth of battle line. These guys would be 150 points worth of battle line, so with the EC, which wouldn't be too bad. So something to consider. But yeah, I think top of B tier is about where they should go with this. So that brings us to Assault Intercessors with jump packs. These guys also got a points reduction. They are now 80 points. And I think, let me see where we had them. We had them also in mid-bottom-ish of B tier. How do you feel about them now?
I like them, but I don't know if I like them A tier like them.
I think I like them bottom of A tier. I think they are, I've used them a fair amount. I know other people who have used them. They are really good secondary, melee support units. Chaff Monkeys getting mortals is good. If you got an enemy something on 1 wound left, charging 5 man into them, probably going to get you that mortal to kill that thing. I like them. I think I like them as A tier, even if it's more towards the bottom of A tier.
I can concede that. So they are very good at doing the secondaries and taking care of your opponent's deployment zone. They are fast. The ability to put out mortals is something that we don't normally have the ability to do, so it's a good way to add some to your list, which is going to be important against certain types of units, monsters, those epic characters, that type of thing. So They do definitely have their place.
Yep, absolutely. Next up is our Ballistus Dreadnought. Now, he was formerly in towards the bottom of A tier. He's gotten a points drop. How do you feel about him now, Bob?
Yeah, he's a very solid A tier. If you're not taking a Lancer, you're taking a Ballistus, in my opinion. He's very cost effective at 140 now, and at the time of this recording, or live stream, I'll say that now. Games Workshop will come back and slap him with the nerf, but they're very
Bob
good.
Thinks they're good. Time to nerf them.
That's what always happens.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But 140 is very cost effective for putting out some nice, resilient, because of 2+ armor save. They got a decent toughness and wound stat.
2+ and cover is really good right now. It's really good.
So, they get the rerolls against things that are not damaged, or at least halfway is not damaged.
Yeah. Above half.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And guys, if you have any questions about our ratings or anything at all, we're happy to answer them too. So don't forget to chime in on the chat if you have questions. All right, so moving along, the Bladeguard Agent. Yep.
D tier.
D tier. Where'd he go? There he is. Goodbye.
Okay. I was preempting this because, no, you never see him. He's not worth taking, and I would almost say that the Bladeguard are almost never seen anymore.
Yeah. For Black Templars, Bladeguard are, pretty much. Where did we put them last time? Let's see. I think, did we have them in D tier? No, we had them in. Wow, we had them in B tier last time.
They're going to go down. So they're actually next on the list. So the Ancient, just briefly, yes, it does give the extra OC. and then you can add one to the attacks characteristics, so you can spike the damage on your blade
Once
guard.
per game.
Yeah, but it's once per game.
If it were
So
once per, if it were like, you know, all the time, then if you were gonna run Bladeguard, you'd take him. The extra
yeah,
attack would be nice for them, but um, yeah, he's definitely D tier. Um, and I think Blade Guards themselves, I have no reason to run them. Sword Bros are just flat out better in every single way, except for lacking in invul. But that's not why I'm taking them. I'm not taking them to be durable. I'm taking them to go kill shit. And, we want them to, um, you know, if I'm taking a melee unit, I need it to kill stuff. I don't, I don't necessarily need it to be durable, unless it's Terminators.
so I'm not gonna drop them like all the way to D or to D.
No.
There's C.
Yeah.
In today's meta, they do have the capability to go kill stuff, in my opinion, because they do have the master crafted power swords. So they
Hmm.
don't need to
They're not
have
bad in melee.
no. They do have the damage too, but it's still AP two. Um, they're just for Black Templars, which is what we're
What
viewing
we're
this whole
talking
tier
about.
list as.
Yeah.
They're just not where we need them, and they're 90 points, so which is not terrible for 3 models, but it's still 30 points a model, and I don't know.
Yeah.
There's not a great options because if you take the full size squad, then they can't have character support in an impulsor. If you walk them, then they're vulnerable to incoming fire. They're just there's there's problems with you.
Yep. Yep. For sure. All right. Next up, the Brutalis Dreadnought. He's seen a huge point drop. He's now only 160 points. And previously, where did we have him at? I think we had him. Did we even have him? Oh, there he is. He was bottom of B tier last time. I haven't had any experience personally with him, but just based on his points drop, I think he definitely moves up. Even if he doesn't go to A tier, I think he moves up within the tier for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's the points drop is going to help significantly. So his problem even before or his problem once the 10th edition was rolling in and we got our codex was that we didn't really realize how easy he was going to be to pick out once you're advancing him. You really kind of had to put him into reserve, and at that particular time putting him in reserve was going to eat up a ton of your points
Mm-hmm.
allotment when you wanted strategic reserves for maybe some of the other stuff that's in your list. So now it's significantly cheaper. You can actually afford to do that because it's a big model.
Yeah.
Ballistics, the ballistis is still obviously about the same size, but you don't have to advance towards your opponent. This guy
Yeah, you got
wants to be
range.
towards you, and yeah, it's a big guy. He's gonna get shot a lot. So I think he moves up in that tier because of the points drop. He's still got some shock value. To
Mm-hmm.
he's can supply those mortals. He's got the sweep. He's good in close combat against differing things, but he also can whiff. Um, that's the thing that I've seen, especially with only the 6 attacks that he has. From
Yeah.
like a,
Yeah, if you're going
but
into something big, he only has the
he,
6 attacks. It is twin linked, which helps. Some people like the fists, but I think the sweep is much better, or I should say not much better, but I like that. I think the talons is a better option. The bolter shots are really mediocre, and honestly, I'd rather have the ability to deal with lots of one wound infantry like Guard or Eldar, which I'm going to wound on twos with his strength 7. and get 4 extra attacks, in addition to, the Brutalis charge. And then, of course, when you Brutalis charge, you should be tank shocking him as well, to get extra mortals. So, yeah. Salinor says, I'd argue for B tier given that you can just take a Lancer. Oh, I think you're talking about, they're talking about the Ballistas in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Salinor, I see your personal experience with the Ballistas, but keep in mind, 2 games is not really enough of a data set. Just sounds like bad dice to me. The Lancer is 30 points more than the Ballistas. That is a huge chunk of change each. So that's a huge chunk of change. And yes, the Lancer is got much better shooting, but the ballista shooting is still solid. And honestly, like, we don't necessarily need guns to kill tanks. We can use Helbrecht to kill big things. Helbrecht and Sword Bros murder just about anything with lethal hits, murder just about anything in the game. There are other ways to deal with large, scary units, and the Ballistas, I think, is a nice alternative that's more durable than a Lancer is, even if it's not as deadly. So,
it comes down to the points, and we'll kind of talk about that. The Lancer is still the king, but it's hard to justify in some lists now because it's like 170 points.
Yeah,
it's like I don't have that.
We're paying 10 points for that for that Melta that isn't going to see much action on that tank in Righteous Crusaders. So now outside of Righteous Crusaders, of course, it's like you can take the non version, but still 20 points more, which is not insignificant. If it were like 10 points more, okay, yeah, but 20 points more is that threshold where you're like, how much do I need this? So yeah. Mr. Mulligan says the Brutalis feels very in theme for Templars. It sure does. That is something that I like about it. That it does have, that melee, and it's scary in melee. It can throw out a lot of mortals, and that's something that our opponents are going to be wary of. So yeah, I think we move him up in the tier list, but within the same bracket. If I can find the little thing, here he is. I think he's definitely still B tier, but I think he's closer to the top of B tier now. Tim Burrows says, I've ran 3 Ballistas in my last 5 games. They are fantastic at sitting out an objective with PCS. 4 OC is great, and they back up PCS wonderfully. Yeah. Moving along, we're back to characters here. We're hitting Captain's Row. So first up is the basic captain. What are your thoughts on the basic captain, Bob?
I mean, they did roll it into everything, so I mean, it's okay. It's okay, but I'm still okay. So there is place for it, honestly. Some people like to be able to use the finest hour to give him some spike damage, and then obviously you get rites of battle with him to get the free. I think he's not terrible, but there's other characters that we're typically taking with our units. He's a good Gladius character. He's a good.
He's a very good Gladius character.
Yeah, so he's a good Gladius character. But that's really kind of the one that you really. I was trying to think to him, like, I don't really see him in Firestorm. I don't really see him
not
in Firestorm.
Not the Tactics guy.
So
Gladius is where you want to run. If you're gonna run one, Gladius is where you want to run him, and he's really good with Sword Bros in there because he can give them the Honor the Chapter strat for free, even if you already used it on somebody else. So you get the extra AP and the +1 to wound. That really helps Sword Bros out. and then he can find a Stour and like have +1 damage, 8 attacks. so so yeah, I think he kind of remains where he is in B tier.
Yep.
I think he's better than, more versatile than the Ancient and the Apothecary, though. Maybe not the Ancient. I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna put him there for now. So yeah. Next up, the Captain in Gravis armor. Once again, he's kind of in that Apothecary Biologist space. He's very, very good with Aggressors in Firestorm. And outside of that, it's just like, there's nothing else to run him with.
Right now, I hear it right now. There's someone in the background, or there's a couple of very specific people I'm referencing here, but they're going to say the Captain in Gravis armor is exceptionally good with the heavy Intercessor squad. Okay, I get it. It makes it a very durable counterattack unit. And that may be something that is applicable here coming up in PARIAH NEXUS, which is
maybe.
But I would spend the points personally.
I mean, you're talking about. See, here's the thing, though, is you're now, if you're doing that, putting him in a 10-man with a heavy Intercessor, they're what, 100 points? That's 280 points for him and the squad. And yeah, they're really durable, but their guns are a little meh. Like, their guns aren't. It's not like Hellblasters where they have quality firepower, right? It's only okay, and they suck in melee outside of him. So there is some play. I think heavy Intercessors may have some additional play, and we'll get to them in a little bit in PARIAH NEXUS. But I don't think making a big blob of them with a Captain is really going to be worthwhile. Azuma says they need to make heavy assault Intercessors. That would be interesting. I don't know. Would you arm them with chainswords, or what would they be armed with? That would be. What if they had eviscerators? Now that would be cool. I could get behind that. So yeah. So I stuck them underneath the Harm Assist in B tier.
Yeah, I think the Biologist is more versatile with differing things, because you can theoretically use them with the Eradicators.
Yep.
As well.
Yep. I agree. All right, so up next on Captain's Row, we've got the Captain in Phobos armor. Now, last time, where do we put this fella?
I know where I want to put him.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where we put him. Where is he? Oh, wow. We put him all the way down in D tier.
That's where he's staying.
What?
Yes. So back in previous editions, he was actually decent. You could give him the Blessed Bolts, and his carbine was good. Okay, so here's the thing: he lacks lone op, which would make him significantly better. If he had lone op,
yeah, fair.
This guy would be almost like an auto take for me. Simply because he combos so well with Infiltrators and Scouts. Yeah. Because he's got Master of Deceit. The problem is he doesn't. So I have to stick him with one of those units, and I don't want to stick him with them because they don't really gain anything from him. And his carbine is not very good. I mean, it does have precision, but it only has the one shot. And it's only damage 2 now, so that's kind of eh. And he doesn't really add anything melee to any of those units. So, and then you also have the fact that he's still like 80 points. So you might as well just take an assassin or the lieutenant with combi. So he's a solid D, maybe top of D.
I hear you. I hear you. However, we just However, I'm going to make a case for C tier, and I'll tell you
Okay.
why. So you mentioned Master of Deceit. For those of you who don't know, Master of Deceit is after both players have deployed their armies and determined who has the first turn. If your army includes one or more models with this ability, you can select up to 3 friendly Adeptus Astartes Phobos or Adeptus Astartes Scout units and redeploy all of those units. When doing so, any of those units can be placed into strategic reserves, regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserves. Now, two things. One, now it was always the case, but there were a lot of people who were reading redeploy as, oh, you can't use infiltrators, which is bupkis. It would always work that way. But GW did clarify that yes, when you redeploy, you can use the infiltrators rule. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, we just released a video that we talked about infiltrators are a must-take unit. And we'll get to them in a second. That they need to be in every list. Literally, they need to be in every list. Every new codex that has come out since what? Pretty much all of them since Necrons. I think since Necrons has had a unit or a strat that allows them to deep strike within 3 inches of something, and these guys just nullify that completely. So they are. Go watch that video. It's really good. We talk all about their utility and everything like that. So we're taking infiltrators no matter what. Scouts are also virtually a must take. They're very, very good. So we're going to be running, at least 2, probably 3 units like this. And something else to note: Invictors are Phobos, so they can be picked up too and redeployed. Now they don't have infiltrators anymore, but they do have scouts, so you can deploy them ultra aggressive on the line, out in front, and then if you don't get first turn, then you just pull it back and put it in a safer spot. Um, yeah, so that's why I think, and yeah, you're right. He doesn't bring anything to the squad. Like if you attach him to infiltrators, he doesn't bring anything to the squad. He doesn't, you know what I mean? I see what you're saying, but I think that if you want to play those kind of mind games, sticking him with the infiltrators, who are basically just gonna be hiding out in the back anyway, it's not a bad shake. So that's my case for C tier. What do you think, Bob?
Very bottom. Very bottom. The very bottom.
I win. All right, so let me find this model here. There he is. C tier. All right. So, all right. So
concede these guys so I can use my chips on other ones.
all right. So moving along, Captain in Terminator armor. We had him at the very top of B tier, and I don't think he's there anymore. What do you think?
No. I think he's. Yeah, I honestly think he probably even drops a tier.
Really? You think he's C tier?
Simply because if you're taking Terminators, you're
I
taking
want
a
the chaplain.
or the agent.
Yep.
Honestly,
Yep.
he's okay with the tactical Terminator.
Regular Terminators, yeah. But we're not seeing them. Like they're not. They just don't have the output. They're not quite as durable as we would want. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, I agree. I think he's higher up in the C tier, but I don't think that he stays in B tier, to be honest.
I mean, some people are going to say, okay, well, there's play to get the fervent acclamation, or
For free.
Crusader's Wrath for free. But
I'd rather have +1 to wound.
Yeah, so would I.
And pay the CP.
So.
That's Captain Sicarius. We don't care about him. Captain with a jump pack. Now, we stuck him in C tier last time. I think that, well, he's like mid-pack C tier is where we put him. Um, I I don't know that he moves out of C tier, but I think he definitely moves up in C tier, and the reason is in Gladius with Assault Ints with jump packs. I think he's very good because you can get, like we talked about last time. We talked about um, how the jump pack chaplain was better because it gives +1 to wound, and +1 to wound is better than +1 strength. Well, in Gladius, you can have both. He gives the +1 to strength, and then the +1 to wound comes in from the strat from Honor of the Chapter. So I think he moves up within C tier, but still probably C tier. What do you think?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
All right, so where did that picture go? So he's there. Put him there. All right. Well, up next, one of my favorite models, and sadly one of the worst units, Centurion Assault Squads.
So they have taken a significant points decrease. I will say that since then.
Yeah. They're now only
But
150 points for 3.
they're still trash.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're way, way, way too slow. You're not going to get anything out of these guys.
Yeah.
4-inch move, even if you put them in strategic reserves, you pop them out, and then you're basically relying on their ranged weaponry, which we've talked many times before. They're
Got nerfed very hard.
way, way nerfed.
Yeah.
So you're not able to just pick up chaff units anymore with them. And then once they get to close combat, I mean, they're decent in close combat, but are they going to get there? That's the big question. And I don't think they're going to get there. There's no way to give them invulnerable saves anymore.
Nope.
I don't believe there's any unit that can even attach to them,
Nope.
if I recall.
Nope.
So, yeah, they're D.
Yeah, they you could theoretically stick them in a land raider, but they take up 3 spaces. So if you take a 6-man, well, you can't take a 6-man because even a Crusader can't take that because that's what 18 slots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice try.
So, yeah, they can't even ride in the transport that's designed for them, which is a shame. Centurion Devastator squads.
A little bit better.
A little bit better. They were in mid-pack C tier. Once again, this is like a situational unit. I think they're still C tier only for the fact that they're pretty good in Gladius. Not Gladius, Vanguard. In Vanguard detachment, they can you can pick them up and ping pong them around.
And then they gain stealth.
And then they gain stealth. Yeah, exactly. So
which is very helpful. But they did take a big points nerf because Games Workshop realized what they were being used for in that detachment, and they're like, "Oh crap, maybe we should roll."
Maybe we should roll. Yeah, exactly. They're 185 points for 3 now, so more bottom of C tier, I think.
Yeah.
Only not D because they have a place in a specific detachment. Our basic chaplain on foot in Tacticus armor. Last time we put him in C tier. I don't think he's moved.
No, I mean the theoretical, he's still decent. So if you don't want to use any characters or specific characters, I mean he still does a decent amount. He can unbattle shock you.
Mm-hmm.
You get to add 1 to the wound roll. He's still decent. He's cheap, but I mean, most of us are probably taking the epic heroes when we want them.
Yep.
or taking some of our other ones. He's decent. He's middle of the road character.
Indeed. All right, so that brings us to our Chaplain Terminator armor, who we ranked high-ish B tier last time. I think he's A tier. Given my experience and Orion's experience with Assault Terminators with a Chaplain, I think he's A tier. What do you think?
Yeah, I could say bottom A tier on that. So
yeah,
Again, he still faces the issues that that I kind of talked about in our previous videos about Terminators. That is an expensive unit.
Yep.
It's easier to avoid, but it buffs them dramatically,
Well,
dramatically
and two,
in
you
how
gotta
durable.
you gotta think too. So for those of you one of our regulars, Crazy Tacos, I know you love your Terminators. For those of you who love Terminators and want to field them, don't be discouraged by the fact that David is not going to be running them in tournaments anymore. Remember, David is trying to win a major, and he's playing very high level 40K. If you're just playing, mostly in your own game store locally, playing in some RTTs, take Terminators. They're still fantastic at that level. But once you get to like the really top tables, is where they start to suffer just because you're sinking so many points into them. For those of you watching that love Terminators, don't be discouraged by the fact that one of our best tournament players is no longer running them. And it's not like he was doing poorly. He just was dropping too many games to make it to the last brackets. Yeah. Next up, probably one of my favorite models, recent models for sure, and one of the worst units is the Chaplain on the bike. I do not think he moves
Travesty.
from his D tier travesty of being terrible. So yeah.
It doesn't.
Yep.
It's
Now we move into the Chaplain with a jump pack. Last time we put him in A tier, mid pack A tier. I think he's still there. What do you think?
he is what you typically probably want to stick with your assault intercessor or
Yep.
jump packs.
Especially in Righteous Crusaders.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. He's a great character for that particular unit. And
I'm leaning more towards Assault Intercessors as 5-man units with no characters versus a 10-man with a character. Just because I really like the utility of them. I'm unsure that they can compete as a primary melee unit. That being said, if you're gonna run a 10-man, you want the Chaplain, and he's very good with them.
so I've seen a list recently that I very much like the look of. I haven't played it yet because I don't have all the models, but it's utilizing the Chaplain 10-man with the assault intercessors.
Ooh.
So I like it. I have used the Chaplain with the 10-man, but I don't have some of the other stuff in that person's list. And I have used them successfully, and he does a ton of damage to the different things that you want.
He
You
adds
can
more
throw
mortals,
on,
which is nice.
a lot.
So
I like him a lot
Cool.
with that unit.
Good. Well, I need to try him out then. All right. Company Heroes is up next. They were, down there in D tier last time, towards the very bottom of D tier, and that's where they'll stay.
Okay, if they could be taken without the captain, I would consider them.
Yeah.
Because they do have some useful abilities, but the downside is the unit is too complicated. So they're specialists. They're each specialists. They each have different weapons. They each have different rules. And the second that you have them, you start losing them. Then you have to reference, okay, what did I lose? What kind of rules did I lose? And it just takes up time. So when you're playing a game that is on the clock, it's not a good thing. They do provide you with something that potentially could be useful if you didn't have to take a captain, but unfortunately that requirement really kind of
it bogs them down for sure. All right, Desolation Squad. Last time Where do these guys were C tier, mid bottom of C tiers where we put them last time. You don't really see these things since they took their giant nerf and can only be run as a 5-man. Um, I don't even know if they're making C tier for me. What do you think, Bob?
I would still say that they are C tier because even though they are super expensive, you can still put out a decent amount of damage with them.
Right.
It's just,
I think they're bottom C tier though.
yeah, they do put out a ridiculous amount of fire. You're just paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Up next, the Devastator Squad. The classic Devastators.
These guys are very versatile. I would put them in the C tier. It's not because they're bad. It's more because
They need
we're
specific
typically,
things.
yeah. So you're either putting them in a drop pod or you're plopping them on a home objective if you necessary. But there's usually something else that we're taking on top of that that's more effective at it. But there is a place in some lists and some detachments for uh, our grav cannon,
Hmm.
Alpha Strike. So that's kind of a cool little thing that we can do in some of those
So we had them mid
detachments.
pack B tier last time.
B, I probably would not put them in B.
I think if
I
they're going to
agree.
be in C tier, they need to be at the top of C tier though, just because they have more than more than one list archetype or detachment that they can thrive in. They
Yeah,
do
you
well
could
in
put them at the top.
they put them they work well in Gladius. They work well in uh, what do you call it, Firestorm. So
120
and
points,
Vanguard. They're cheap.
they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're cheap. All right. Up next is the Dreadnought, the venerable Dreadnought. I don't even know how much this guy costs because I rarely consider him. 135 points. For 5 points more, I'm just taking Rip Ballistus. There's zero reason for me to take this guy. Um, like, he has some interesting weapon options, but none of it is better than the Ballistus. And, you know, Wisdom of the Ancient is an aura, reroll hit of 1, which is nice. But I'd still rather have a Ballistus. We have Oath of Moment. Ballistus already rerolls against above half strength units. He was in mid pack C tier last time. I think he drops to D tier for me with the
Yeah,
points
I
nerfs,
agree.
the points decrease on the Ballistus. So yeah,
I agree with that.
poor Dreadnought. I have like 5 of those models. Speaking of drop pods, the drop pod is next. Last time we had it in bottom C tier.
I don't think it moves. It really only fits really one unit that I can think of right now, and that's that Devastator Alpha Strike.
Could use a
Um,
Hellblasters unit with them too,
yeah, it's
but
basically a suicide Alpha Strike unit,
yep.
and I would be higher on them if they were a dedicated transport, and I don't understand why they're not, but for some reason they're not. So you can only take 3 of them. So that really kind of cuts down on their uh, movement shenanigans, deployment shenanigans that you could do with the list. And it's just really unfortunate. I
Yep.
mean, it's great that they can come down in turn 1 and really kind of surprise your opponent, but only being able to do it 3 times is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah. Um, Leaks says, I'm hoping for new Vanguard vets with better weapons before the end of the edition. Yes, me too. I cannot imagine that we're not getting them, to be honest with you. I think I would be very surprised if we did not get them. Anyway, next up, Eliminators. Now, they took a points, or they were top, the first position in C tier in our last list. But that was when they were 75 points. Now they're 85 points. I think they drop within C tier because they were kind of pushing it already as far as their usefulness, and you know, just having a points nerf for really no reason to me doesn't help them.
So I think the reason why is they were coming up in a lot of lists as like an MSU unit that you can cheaply put on the board and take up space, and because they were precision was starting to come back a little bit, so they took that nerf. But yeah, they're not going to be much more than at most mid to low C, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to put them above Bladeguard because they're better than Bladeguard. Jared asks, do the drop pods also give up Bring It Down? They sure do. They're a vehicle. Blade Charge says, regarding the new Vanguard vets, he doubts it. They are phasing out Firstborn, remember. You say that. However, Stern Guard are a unit that are now in Tacticus armor, but you can still use your Firstborn models, as well as Assault Intercessors. Basically replaced Assault Marines, which, the jump pack guys. So I'm expecting, that's what I would expect, is a replacement of something like that, right? So we'll get Tacticus armored models with hopefully something other than rusty heirloom weapons, and some really cool new sculpts. I would be down for that. So that's what I'm expecting, is sort of just like and honestly, I think that's what's going to happen with Tactical and Devastator squads too. I mean, Tactical and Devastator are too iconic, in my opinion, to just squat completely. I think we will get something like Stern Guard, where we will, or Scouts. Scouts, same thing with Scouts. They just primarisized the models, kind of reduced your options a little bit. Added the single sniper into the Scout squad versus having a full squad of them. So yeah, so I think that's something like what's going to happen with Vanguard vets. Elite says they've been updating certain Firstborn kits, though, and they're part of one of the Space Marine detachments. Jared says they would be a good bet for the Blood Angels Codex. Maybe not. In any case, moving on. Let's see what we have next. The Eradicators. So last time our chunky Melta boys were... Where did we have them? We had them in the bottom of A tier.
I would put them in top of B now. So
yeah, because of some of the changes to our other anti-tank platforms. I would agree with that.
They still are very useful, but mathematically, they do. If you're taking the 3 ones, we've done it a bunch of times. I think it comes out to like just over 8 wounds that they do with their rerolls, which is not typically enough to kill something. So
they do mathematically outperform a Lancer, if you can believe it. Like per 100 points.
But you do have to strategic reserve them.
Yep,
that's a
They
requirement.
got 18-inch range versus the Lancer has 72 inches. And the Lancer is also more durable. So
they certainly have a place and are useful in your lists. So don't take that as a...
I'm thinking of slapping a 3-man squad into a Redeemer that also contains Hellbricht and Sword Bros and a Lieutenant. Because then they just jump out and guns blaze. But yeah, I think top of B. Just some other units that have gotten much better, like the Ballistas, for example. I think that's why we moved them down a little bit. Fire Strike servo turrets. Last time we had these guys at the bottom of C tier. Do you still feel that way?
So you don't see them very often,
No.
but I feel like they would be good in something like Vanguard.
I think they're also good at Ironstorm.
Or yeah, and Ironstorm. So like they do have decent weapons, honestly, and they're fairly cheap at 75 points.
The
And
last
while you're
Talon is 36 inches. It's 2 shots. It hits on 2s. It's strength 10, so, strength 10. But it is twin linked. So that gives you like a 55% chance to wound the thing you're wounding. It's AP minus 3, and it's D6 plus 1 damage. For 75 points, I mean, it's also tough 6 with 6 wounds and a 2 plus save. So, and it's single model. I'm just going to say it, in my Ironstorm list, I replaced all my Crusader squads with Fire Strikes. because yeah, they synergize with that list, and they're cheap, and they're fairly durable, and they basically have the almost the last cannon in there. So
yeah, the only downside is their movement is only
3 inches.
They don't move or reposition very well to get
You're right.
good shots. But yeah, I feel like this is a couple of units of these wouldn't hurt you. If you have just those units, just like I got 150 points, what am I gonna do with it? This would be a good way to get a couple of incidental las cannons in. But yeah, I'm okay with where they are currently at the bottom of C. But
I think
they're not terrible.
I think they're a little higher than the bottom of C. Like, I'd probably take one of these, maybe over Eliminators. I don't know, or around
Oh
Eliminators.
yeah, I would take them higher than those.
Yeah.
You don't see them very often, but I don't think that's because their unit is bad. I think it's just because.
The Blade Shard says server turret. Hang on, guys, I'm coming. It's like Monty Python, just and suddenly it's there and it's shooting you in the face with a last
Yeah,
arrow.
I know that. I know that's very not Black Templaries thematic, but I feel like they are a decent unit, actually.
Yeah. All right, so here we are at the Gladiator Lancer. I don't think there's any question. Which one of these things is it? I think it's this one. I don't think there's any question that this guy is still the King Chili in all the land of anti-tank. So he's going in S tier.
He like I mentioned before, though, he does have some question marks attached to him now, though.
In Righteous Crusaders, anyway, yeah.
Can you fit him in?
Yeah.
So,
yep.
But he's not leaving S tier.
No.
They just do. They're so consistent. It's just, can you fit him in your list?
Yeah.
With all this other stuff that you need now, that's the only question.
That's the tough part. They're slowly creeping up his points. The Gladiator Reaper. Now, last time we stuffed this poor fellow all the way down at the bottom of C tier, and I honestly think that he's much better than that. We've talked about Ironstorm, even in Righteous Crusader. I think he's B tier, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too. There's a bunch of different combos that you can run with the different detachments with it. He's great into chaff to take out some of that stuff if you need him to.
Yep.
If you need to take the last few wounds off of stuff, he's great with that. Obviously, you can slap on a multi-melta in our detachment. So we'll get to those. I'm not sure if we're separating them or not.
I don't think we're separating the tanks. I think just our bespoke units.
Okay. So I think they're reasonably good.
Yeah.
Now the Valiant I was very high on in Firestorm.
Oops.
And I've since cooled.
Yes. The hot meltas are not so hot anymore. I think we had him. We actually had him in B tier. I think they kind of swap places. I think the Valiant goes to C tier, and you know uh, the Reaper goes to B tier. It's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's Melta has problems. Um, it has problems. So even though if we slap our Melta on there, you're going to get a ton of Melta shots, which is great in theory. But the Strength 9 is problematic if you don't have rerolls.
It's a one-trick pony. It's sort of like these other units, like the Biologist, the regular Apothecary, the Jump Pack guy, um, the Centurion devs. It's good in Firestorm, but that's really the only place it's good, right? So it's a niche pick for a very specific detachment and a very specific build. And if you're taking it in Firestorm, you want the Black Templars version because you want the extra Melta, because that's the whole point. They become strength 10. So, so yeah. So yeah, C tier for me. The Hammer Fail Bunker has nowhere to go but down, in my opinion. He was somehow C tier last time. I don't know what we were thinking, but he's definitely D tier. This is a garbage unit. Um, they nerfed it. I don't think we realized that they nerfed it in the Codex. He was actually pretty cool in the Index. Like, it was playable. And then they just took away all his cool abilities. And yeah, garbage in my opinion. What do you think,
I mean,
Bob?
they did reduce the points a lot.
I mean, 175 points, I'm taking a Vindicator. Always.
That is
It,
true.
it can't claim objectives. Because isn't it a fortification or something? Keywords. Yeah, it's a fortification. So I don't think it can claim objectives. Um, I don't know though. Either way, for 175 points, I'm gonna take a Vindicator that has uh, almost the same stat line and a much better gun. A much better gun. So yeah, Jared says it was the Overwatch rules. Thank you. That's what it was. So yeah, that's D tier for me. I just can't. It's a cool model. I actually might pick up one eventually just and use it as terrain
Yeah.
because it's a cool model.
I think it's
Um,
like $120, isn't it?
it's super expensive. That's the other problem, you know. So it's
Yeah, I
like
think
some of these
it's up there.
models, GW is just off their rockers. All right. Uh, Next up is the Heavy Intercessor Squad. Now, last time, where did we put these chunky boys? Let's see. I think that's that picture. Where are they? We had them mid-pack C tier. How do you feel about them now, especially with PARIAH Nexus on the horizon?
Okay, so I think they might have some play now.
Are they moving up to B
Maybe.
tier?
No, no, no,
No,
no, no,
no,
no,
no.
no,
Still
no.
staying at 2. We're just
No. They're
climbing the
staying,
ladder.
might go up a couple notches a little bit in C tier. So here's my thoughts though. We talked a little bit on a video. I'm not sure if this one's been posted. Yeah, it did. You posted it. We've got a few videos in progress, so
Yeah.
I gotta play out which one's been released or not. But we did release this one, and we kind of talked about where troops are going to kind of to go,
Mhm.
and I feel like these guys are going to be probably the last ones of the troops that we're probably going to take, but you
The
might
battle line.
still want them. If you don't want to do infiltrators, if they're just not your thing, or I mean, might switch out infiltrators for something else,
So
because you're
they're an
considering.
annoying backfield objective holder because they're
Yeah,
hard to kill.
exactly,
They're hard to kill.
exactly,
Their guns are like honestly, their guns are really kind of almost what bolters, regular bolters, should be. They're not good, but they're not as bad as regular bolters. So They're at least decent. You can get a heavy bolter in the squad.
Yep, the heavy
Um,
bolter.
so yeah, I think they've climbed the ranks of C tier. Where would you put them, Bob? More towards the top right now?
Like 3/4. So like,
Well,
what do we got?
right now I've got at the top the Fire Strike, the Reaper, and Dev Squad.
No.
I'd probably put them above the Dev Squad.
Yeah.
They have more utility than like the captains and the
Yeah.
biologists and stuff like that. So
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm okay with that. I don't think they're going to be in every list thing. I
no,
still think that, in my opinion, that the infiltrators are more of a go to, even though they're not going to be battle line. Um, but you could sub them out, and I think that might be something you could do. But we'll get to another unit that I would say is their main competitor in just a little bit.
so Hellblasters are our next unit. They have gone down in points. They're now only 115. They were what, 125 before?
Yes.
So only 115 points. Um, we ranked them. Let's see, where were they? Um,
Probably
where do we have
somewhere
them?
in B.
Probably. I'm trying to find the little icons are so tiny. It's like, oh wait, I can zoom in. That helps some. Getting old, guys. Don't get old. Uh, those are Desos. Oh,
And we'll talk about them a little bit while he's looking.
yeah.
So
You
these
talk while
guys,
I look.
these guys do a potential ridiculous amount of damage,
Oh,
especially
we
if
had them in
you
A
you.
tier. We had them in A tier. Bottom of
So
A tier, but A tier.
you do have that combo in Gladius with your Apothecary to be able to put out a ton of fire with the fire discipline. So this is the uh, kind of the go to for one of those options. It's either aggressors or these guys, and they just evaporate things. Then you also have the apothecary will revive one of them when they die, and then they do shoot on a 4+ when they die as well. So it's the hilarity meme unit that no one really wants to shoot at because they're going to take something out with them.
Yep.
But as Jared says, they're also really hilarious in impulsors.
The party bus. The
Yep.
plasma party bus.
Yep.
So I think they stay in A tier. And the reason is um, one, they have a very good shooting profile for their points. You're getting 5 plasma incinerator shots. They have assault and heavy. Yes, it's hazardous when you overcharge, which of course you're overcharging. Overcharging is life. Their combo works in any detachment. You stick an apothecary with them. If you want to get really funny, stick a lieutenant with them. Fire discipline makes them better, but it's not the reason, like not like aggressors where you need what is it called, fire discipline, to make their shooting worthwhile. Their shooting is worthwhile on its own, and they work in any detachment with that apothecary, which is tons of fun.
Yep.
And they have combos in multiple detachments. They combo in Gladius, they combo in Firestorm. Um, so, um, so yeah, I think they stay A tier, especially with the points drop.
They're a very good unit, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take them in every your list. It's not one of
No.
those like, oh, they're in every list, but they do provide you with a ton of awesome anti-infantry firepower.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you need.
Well, and the fun part too is you can slap a 5-man in an apothecary in a impulsor, and then the
Which
impulsor.
has happened to be the next unit.
Yeah, and the impulsor takes those mortal wounds. So,
Yes. So
the Impulsor is up next. We had that as an S tier unit last time,
yeah,
mainly
that's
because of the Bro Bus.
yeah, it's still going to be up there in my opinion. This unit is in many lists. It did take a nerf
Hmm.
um, for the Black Templars version
Yep.
because of the ability to take the multi melta, but you're still taking them.
Yep.
They want to move up. They want to shoot, and I really like that. Still, am really liking the missile array and the multi melta setup. Some people prefer to have the invul. I am of the opinion is get as many shots as you can, kill your opponent, then they're less
So
likely to shoot you.
the Invul's a waste, and I'll tell you why. The Invul's a waste because it gives you only a 5 up. So it's got a 3+ save. Cover is extremely easy to get, especially on big models, because you can like partially park them behind something and get cover. So let's look at what are you going to shoot at a tank? Probably something that's AP3, right? Maybe AP4. So if you're at AP3 and you're in cover, you're already on a 5 up. So that the invul doesn't help you. If AP4 is shooting you, you can be in cover and get Armor of Contempt and still be on a 5 up situationally as needed. I'd rather have, like you said, a gun or something that I think is worth considering, especially if you have more than one impulsor. I do like the missile array. I've used it a lot. Um, Sometimes it misses, but sometimes not. And it has the anti-fly missile, which is really handy. Anti-fly. There's a lot of things with fly, and getting wounding it on a 2 up is is fun. But the comms array, because especially depending on your list and if you have more than one impulsor, we're going to be spending CP on units nearby, especially like if the Emperor's Champion or Halbrecht and friends jump out of that. We're going to be spending CP on them, so it gives you an opportunity to get that CP back. So you just gotta kind of look at your list and decide what's more important to you. The incidental, extra damage of the missile or the, potential to gain a CP back. So both of those, I think, are the two options that we want to take as far as the turret weapon on that. But the shield dome is not worth it. Don't fall into that trap. You're talking on mute, Bob.
No, I just didn't say anything.
Oh, it looked like you did.
I was gonna start saying something, but then I had some. Anyway.
So yeah, I think they're still S tier. So
yeah,
Inceptors.
very good still. They took
Yep.
a nerf, but they're still very good. The ability to drop in and mess around with your opponent's deployment zone and be able to get objectives is very important. I think I undervalued them when we first got in 10th edition, but I haven't made that mistake yet.
Yeah.
Since I prefer the assault bolters personally because they do spike for me. The ability to spike is nice, but you cannot say enough about the plasma as well. Is the ability to be a damage 3 weapon for you
Mm-hmm.
and be able to smoke a monster or a lighter vehicle in your opponent's back, your backfield, or even take some wounds and models off of an elite unit. So they're very good as well. But I prefer the bolters myself because typically I'm trying to use them for is to whittle down those little backfield units that are just super annoying and maybe battle shock them so they are not able to get that home objective claimed on the next turn. So that's what I like them for.
Yep. Blade Charge, we are talking about Inceptors. Yeah, they're absolutely an S tier unit. I think they're better than Aggressors. We ranked them lower than Aggressors last time within S tier. I think they're better than Aggressors because they're useful on any list. Like Bob, I like the Bolters a lot. Um, they're kind of very multi-purpose. The only time I ran into trouble and wished that I had the plasma was I played another Space Marine player and I was trying to shoot these uh, heavy intercessors off of a back objective, and it was just they would not die. Damage two into them was not good. So yeah, it was a pain. But other than that, you can't go wrong with either. You know, pick which one you want, um, and you know, go with it. You know, would you run more than one, Bob? That's the next question.
I don't currently, but I 100% see the rationale behind running multiples, especially if you're trying to do MSU style secondary things. But the problem is that because they took that nerf, it's harder to do it. And I
Yeah,
130 points now. I probably stick with one now because
yeah,
it's
it's a little bit more
it's
expensive.
yeah. So I and actually going back looking at the tier list, I would actually rank the Impulsor higher than the Aggressors.
Yeah. Blade Charge, they do not have grenade launchers or the grenade keyword, unfortunately. That would be pretty gross if they had the grenade keyword. Um, in any case, we are moving right along. Incursors, they also got a points drop. They are now only 80 points. Um, and they're not bad. They have the +1 to hit, the multi-spectrum array that gives, you know, your other units +1 to hit. My trouble is there's always something better for the points to take, you know, which is a shame because I really like them as a unit. But yeah,
If
what are
they
your
were battle
thoughts?
line, I would be way more high on them, but they're not. And it's just unfortunate
Yeah,
because these guys would be perfect going into PARIAH NEXUS. Be able to give us the ability to pop off some additional +1 to hits so we
yeah,
don't have to waste our oath on them. The ability to bait out some assaults and then throw mortal wounds at them with the Haywire Mine. I just don't think they're worth it in a world where we need battle line coming forward and have other units that are better that give us more utility, like infiltrators and
for 80
scouts.
points, I'd rather take regular intercessors and get sticky objectives.
Yeah.
We had them before in bottom of B tier.
They're definitely C
Yeah. Where would you put them in C?
towards the bottom.
Yeah. I would take them before I'd take Centurions and Bladeguard. Jared says, yeah, why don't we have one Phobos battle line option? I agree. We should. I can understand why they don't want infiltrators to be battle line, especially going into Pariah Nexus. There are already enough of a must take. But Incursors, making them battle line, I think would really up their value, especially in Pariah Nexus. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think they
Send
should
an
be battle line.
email.
Send those emails in.
Yep,
All right.
because it works. It works.
Yep. All right. Next up, the Infernus Squad, which I think we had these guys. Where did we put them last time? Looks like probably. I think we had them C tier.
Yeah, I think they probably are still a C tier, no matter where, or a C tier, no matter where they were before.
Yeah.
Um, I love the idea behind the list or this unit.
The unit. Yeah.
Thematically, they're crazy fun. They fit my riding dirty list very well.
Yeah.
Drive by flames. I just it's hilarious to me. But realistically, they do pop off a battle shock. But we've found out over the course of 10th edition, battle shock is not nearly as effective as we were hoping it was going to be. Um, I think it'll take some fundamental changes to the game to make battle shock more useful. And I think I've heard rumors that they are possibly looking at doing that, but until we see something, I really can't rate them higher than a C.
Yeah.
Now you can spike their damage a little bit in Firestorm, but even then, the aggressors with the Flamestorm cannon or the gauntlets are better. They do more damage.
Why not both?
But yeah,
I think they're a high C tier though, because of their usefulness in Firestorm. So yeah.
I'm on the next one. You might as well just throw it to the top of the S tier.
Yep, Infiltrators. We all know they're S tier. I am going to put them above the Gladiator Lancer because while the Lancer is still an amazing, amazing unit with amazing damage output, Infiltrators are literally should be in every single list, and Gladiators don't have to be in every single list. Infiltrators need to be in every single list. Period.
Now,
hands down.
Now, I'm biased. So, like, I agree with that sentiment, and I know a lot of players do not agree with that sentiment. That's fine.
You gotta protect your DZ. Remember that. What was it? Was it LVO? No, it was LVO, right? Was lost because someone didn't screen their deployment zone properly, and a monolith was deployed. so yeah. So Infiltrators denying a massive swath of the board. And in that video that we talk about, go watch that video. In that video, I show an example of a couple of ways that you can string them out a little bit and create a huge bubble of denial. Of you can't deep strike at all within this space. That is really, really super important. Especially with every new codex, they have something 3-inch deep strike. So it's becoming more and more important. And as they keep doing that, it's going to continue to be more and more important.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm going to skip ahead. I've referenced these guys a little bit here earlier in the video, and I know it's the next one that we're going to talk about, but this is going to be a little bit combined. So intercessors have sticky objectives, right? Mm-hmm. So what you can do going into the new PARIAH NEXUS meta is you can take a little base unit of intercessors, and you don't have to sit these guys on the objective anymore if you have those guys. So intercessor squad stickies it right off the top of the game, and you can deploy your infiltrators further out from your objective, and your opponent still will not be able to drop in on your objective.
Yep.
Because they're stickied and they have that bubble.
Yep.
So
you're now protecting a larger area of the board.
You can block out even more now if you take the intercessors, if you combo with it. So I think that's going to be something that you might want to think about.
Yep.
So I personally, again, I'm not everyone. Each person has their own biases. Excuse me. I start every single list. The first unit that I put into my list is infiltrators, and then I build everything else. That's the first thing that goes on my list when I'm clicking. So that's just me.
So speaking of intercessors, where are you putting them?
I think intercessors are wherever they were before. They're going to be much higher.
They were C tier before.
Oh, they're certainly B. I would say probably top of B.
Yeah. I'll put them above Eradicators for sure.
Battle line is going to be extremely important. Important going forward. Can't really talk about a ton of this stuff, but you could probably find it online somewhere. But there's been talk that battle line is going to be even more prevalent than what Games Workshop has led on so far.
Yeah.
So these guys are going to be very, very important. Now, even though they have sticky, they also do have the ability to take grenade launchers, which is something that ups their damage. Which is
they've built-in assault, so they can advance and do an action. Actual actions are coming back. So yeah, we're probably gonna see like we've been calling them actions, but they were really not officially actions. Actions are officially back. My guess is that they will have the same restrictions as the not quite actions. Yeah, assuming you can still assault, advance with an assault weapon and be eligible to shoot, which means that you can do an action, is going to be pretty crucial. Having that advance with them. So.
And then you'll have that plasma pistol to spike damage, as well as you'll be able to have power fists, so they're not going to be worthless in close combat. So I think these guys are going to be a small unit for, what are they, 80 points?
80. Yeah. 80 points.
You're going to fit them in.
Moving to the other end of the spectrum, the Invader ATV is still garbage. It's D tier. I would probably take this guy. Maybe before I took a Hammerfall. Actually, no. I'd probably take a Hammerfall first.
I wouldn't. I probably would take the ATV before.
All right.
Now, I kind of like the Mario Go-Kart unit.
Yeah.
The look of it.
It just doesn't. It's too expensive. It's 70 points for a single multi-melta. Yeah, it's a durable platform, but no. Invictor Tactical Warsuit. Last time we ranked this fella up there in mid A tier, and I think he's still there.
So, I like the unit a lot, but you don't ever see it being used.
This is also true.
So, the abilities that it has are good. But I would question that being an A tier still, because there's so many other things that are rated higher than it that we need to have in our lists.
That's fair.
So, for example,
I think it really shines in Vanguard. So if you're building around the Phobos keyword, like the Phobos captain. You're in Vanguard. I think then it becomes A tier, but I think besides that, other than that, it's good, but I don't think it's. I think you're right. Actually, I think it's probably B tier.
Because its ability really doesn't really help a standard unit.
Yeah.
It's keyed around Phobo units, and its data sheet itself is decent, but it doesn't really add to what we need to. When we're making choices in Righteous Crusaders or Gladius or what have you, we need efficiency, and it really only fits really well with the Vanguard.
Yeah. All right. The Judiciar. Last time we had him near the top of S tier. What do you think? What do you think about him now, Bob?
I would put him under excuse me. In the S tier under Inceptors. Yeah. He's still very good. He can go with a bunch of different units. I love him with the Sword Brother.
Yeah.
Because he gives him that fights first, which is important, especially when you're prepping up your 5-man units. Now, you wouldn't put them on with a 10-man because you do Hellberg with that combo. But when you're jumping out it, and sorry, I don't know, excuse me, my throat's getting kind of cleared. But when you're jumping them out of your impulsors, comboing them up, you might be put in a situation where your opponent charges into you and you want to have that fight first to be able to attack with your important units that are so expensive. Plus, in some detachments like the Gladius, you can buff them up to pretty high levels of melee power.
Yep.
And being able to get that precision. And yeah, I like them a lot. They're a solid character unit.
Yep. I agree. All right, up next is our 3 Land Raiders. Now, last time we had all 3 of these guys at the bottom of B tier. I think that has most assuredly changed. The Redeemer if not S tier, is top of A tier, in my opinion. The Crusader, I think, probably has fallen to like C tier, and I think the regular Land Raider stays in B tier. What do you think, Bob?
I agree.
So where do we want to put the Redeemer? Do we want it at the top of A tier, or do you think it's S tier?
I would put it at the top of A tier, not S tier, but it is finding its way into a lot of lists,
A lot of
tournament
lists.
winning lists.
A lot of lists.
So, but I will say, I've talked about many times about the 10-man units, the Hellbrick Bomb of the 10-man units. Those are not in those lists, but the 5-man Hellbrick Bombs are.
Yep.
So the Redeemer just does so much damage. The ability to overwatch in the middle of the board, the ability to basically shrug off attacks is just huge.
Now, last time when we did this, you forced me to talk about Filthy Witches. So yeah, are we still talking about Filthy Witches? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Darn.
Yes.
Darn. I guess, all right, for non-Black Templar players, because none of you are running witches, right? Right? Don't make me come get you.
Well, you're gonna have to come get me because I got a Phobos Librarian getting
Bob.
painted right now.
Bob. Don't make me get on an airplane and fly out west.
Fist.
As long as you demand that your opponent allow you to attack your own model and kill it at some point during the game, then maybe. So the regular witch gives out an invul to its unit, which is actually pretty good. What do you think about the regular witch?
It's okay. It's average.
We had him B tier. I think C tier. You don't really see him that much, to be honest.
Yeah. What you really do see is the one that's next.
The one that's next is the Phobos Librarian. He gives lone op, essentially. So people like him with the Infiltrators.
Yes.
And League says you need to be excommunicated for heresy. I agree. Then these guys see it on the news. It's like, Georgia man flies out west and murders business partner because of heresy. Tonight at 5. No, just kidding. Despite Bob's heresy, I might forgive him. We'll see.
So this unit actually is very, very, very good. I haven't put him in a list yet, but I feel tempted.
You feel tempted. Tempted enough that you're having someone paint a model for you. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the option's there.
So we had him in D tier last time.
So, and I think I made a mistake on this one. So,
I think, aside from the fact that he's a witch, like being able to stick him with an infiltrator squad and being like just stick them out in the open and like, you can't shoot me. Like, I think that's really good. I think he's probably B tier.
He's like towards the top of B tier, honestly. I would even say maybe even a bottom of A tier. What? Because think about it this way. So your infiltrators are you can't drop in within 12. Then they gain lone op. So you literally cannot shoot. Nothing in the game can shoot them for at least one turn.
Yeah.
Even if you drop in,
fine.
Can't be within 12 inches.
But I'm putting him at the very
safe.
Bottom of A tier.
They're literally safe for a whole turn, and then you can address whatever just dropped into your deployment zone. I think that is huge. Plus you can be really shenanigan-y with, I think, the Vanguard, and no one has done it yet, but I still say throwing those guys on a primary Crusader squad is just never mind. Ignore that because you can't even attach them.
Right. You're thinking of the regular librarian with the regular one. Yeah.
But yes, the Infiltrators is really good.
Yeah. All right. Next up is the Librarian and Terminator armor. He still stinks. D tier
No.
because Chaplain is just significantly better. So I'll put
Okay.
him.
Now we're past the witches.
Now we're thankfully past the witches into something that's actually useful. The Lieutenant. He's was an A tier unit before. He's definitely still an A tier unit now. What do you think?
I think that this is going to be an A tier. Yep. So the ability to grant lethal hits to um, that comboed unit that we referenced, the Helbrecht combo, is really huge. That you don't have to though put him with Helbrecht. I just feel like he's best there.
It means that you don't have to spend a CP, and it also means that you don't have to worry about trying to get Helbrecht out of the box before you charge. You can just get your lethals automatically. So,
And the Lieutenant, I think, is just has more versatility with its weapon profiles. It just,
yeah.
yeah, I honestly probably would put him higher in A tier, not quite S tier, in my personal opinion, but I would put him in higher A because he is what makes that combo work.
Yeah. Above the Redeemer?
Yes, he's in more lists than the Redeemer, I think.
All right. Up next, we are running out of time, so we're going to move a little quicker here. Lieutenant and Phobos armor was last time in C tier. I think he's probably still bottom of C tier.
Yeah, bottom. Same thing with the Lieutenant Reaver.
He's
Reaver might actually be in the D tier.
the Reaver is definitely in the D tier because he's not even good for his own unit. He stinks. Yeah. He's as bad as the Chaplain on a bike. The Lieutenant with combi weapon, we had him in the... I don't see him. So I'm sure he was fairly high. I don't remember where though.
Put him in A.
But I think he's in A tier, yep, as well. A lone op thing that can do... Yeah, he was an A tier last time. A lone op thing that can do stuff, actions and hide in the backfield and give you a bonus to your army. Always good. He's cheap, and having a little one-man unit like this, really good. So definitely A tier.
Yeah, he's a Calidus that is cheaper.
Yeah, not quite as good as a Calidus, except in Vanguard. But yeah, I like him.
Yeah, so
I like him.
He's good.
Moving up in the ranks, surely is the Outrider squad. Now a mere 80 points. They were in D tier for us last time. I think they are a solid C tier at this point.
A solid?
Yeah, I think they're better than a drop pod. I think they're better than a Deso squad or Centurion Devastators. I'd take them before I took Incursors. So yeah.
Fine. I want to like it because I like Outriders.
They're cool. The models are cool. I want them to be better. They need more attacks. If they had more attacks, or if the Chaplain gave them like +3 attacks each on the charge, or +2 attacks each on the charge, then they might be worth it. And the Sergeant could take some war gear. Then I'd take them. The two Predators, Annihilator and Destructor.
I like the Destructor better. Or I'm sorry,
the Annihilator. Yeah, the last cannon one. Yep. He was B tier last time. Do you feel like he's still B tier, Bob, or what are you thinking?
So with the Ballistus getting a points reduction since the last time around, I feel like the Ballistus is a better option.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not quite A tier. I think he's probably still top of B because you do have the ability to reroll that damage roll of 1.
Yeah.
And you do get the 3 las cannons. One of them is twin linked and better quality. So it's a poor man's anti-tank, anti-monster.
Yeah.
But I think those two are probably going to be taken. The ballista is going to be taken a little bit more because it's a little bit more durable.
Yep.
The destructor,
We had him
I
C tier
probably
last
would
time.
not take. Yeah, I would say lower end of the C tier because I'm really not. What it gives you, you can replicate with many other items
Yeah.
in our D sheets.
Yep. I would agree with that. The Razorback, we had it in D tier last time. I think it's better than D tier. The problem is that it's, once again, it's like we're going to take it in one detachment with one unit, which is probably a Devastator squad. Um, I I don't see running it in any other fashion because you have to have a unit in it. I think it would be much higher if we didn't have to have a unit in it, but you do. Um, so um, so yeah, I think it makes it to C tier, but only just.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the Rhino better because you can put something in and shoot out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll probably put it there next to the drop pod. The Redemptor Dreadnought has taken some points nerfs, but he's still pretty good. We had him in A tier. I don't know. Do you think he's still in A tier? He was mid pack.
I would say he's lower A now
Yeah. With
because he
the
does
rise of
combo
the
very
Redemptor and
well.
the Redeemer, or not the Redeemer, the Redemptor, the Redeemer and the Ballistus, I think he drops in value.
As well as you have the Vindicator, which we'll talk about. A lot of the things that he does and what you wanted with him
Hmm.
is replicated, but he still is very valuable in Ironstorm,
Yeah.
in what you want to do. Very, very valuable. So, and he's still fairly reliable damage 3, which is something that we don't have a lot of in
Yeah.
our lists.
Yeah. Next up is Reavers. We had them in C tier last time. So here's the thing.
Big mistake.
They have we had them top of C tier actually. Um, I don't think they're D tier because D tier means it's just absolute garbage, and they're not absolute garbage.
Oh,
They are good with that Phobos Lieutenant because you can drop in and then move D6 inches after you shoot. Black Templars in Righteous Crusaders can make their melee decent, giving them extra AP, giving them fervent acclamation. So I think they're still C tier, but I think they're the bottom of C tier with the Phobos LT.
yeah, I agree. So, like other units, I think we overvalued what Battle Shock gives you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and
yep,
unfortunately, that's what you use them for. And it hasn't really worked out.
yeah, yep. Agreed. Next up, the two repulsors. We put the Rep E mid pack B tier and the regular repulsor bottom B tier. Do you
I'm
still
okay
feel that
with
way?
that placement.
Yep, I am too.
So they're
The
cheap transport in the case of the repulsor with a ton of guns, and in certain detachments the repulsor executioner is very good.
mhm,
Specifically Ironstorm,
yeah,
it could put out a ton of quality shots
but in
along
another
with a
detachment,
ton
I'd
of
rather
hits.
have a Lancer for less points. So, the Rhino. We also had the Rhino in D tier last time. I think that was a little mistake.
Yeah, so that one rises up because it combos with both our Crusader squads if you're still taking them, which you may or may not be, and they also combo with the scouts,
Yeah, you can
which
put scouts in them and get scout. You can
yeah,
also do that
you
with a
can,
Razorback. So
but then you can't shoot out of it.
this is true, and you want to shoot that crack missile.
Yeah, the
Um,
crack missile and the sniper rifle out of a
yeah,
Rhino is really huge.
it's
So I
fun.
actually do like them. Um, I would put them more towards, not quite B, but I would put them more towards the top.
Top of C, top
Yeah,
ish. Okay.
they're definitely not D now. They're showing up in quality tournament lists, and for that reason, you can scout them up. That's
Yep.
something that's really important.
Speaking of scouts, they're up next. They are
Yes,
absolutely still an S tier. I'm putting them above the Judiciar and the Aggressors. I actually think they're better than Inceptors because they're cheaper. You can get two of them for the same price as one. They've got a ton of rules. They can be picked up and put back down. I think they're in more lists of mine than the Inceptors are.
I agree.
Yeah. Stern Guard veterans. I wish these guys were better. We had them in A tier. Now, I think we overvalued them. I don't think they drop a lot. I don't think they're better than C tier, to be honest.
I think back then, now my timing could be wrong, but I think back then they still had the ability, their devastating wounds were still
Well, mortals.
the way they
yeah,
were.
yeah, they were still mortals.
So now they since changed that.
Yeah.
And yeah. No, I really love the look of these models, and I think that they can put out a decent amount, but they're competing for the spot with like the Hellblasters, which are more consistent damage to
Mm-hmm.
output. Plus, they can be spiked higher without the loss of the devastating mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Now, devastating wounds is still pretty powerful.
Yep.
So their ceiling is potentially higher if you get the dice to go your way, but it's not going to be as consistent.
Yeah. I think they're solid C tier.
Yeah.
I'll put them below the Rhino. All right. The Stormhawk Interceptor.
No.
D.
No.
Sorry, Stormhawk. You're terrible.
I mean, it's just almost not even worth talking about it because flyers are typically
Really
not
bad.
very good.
Yeah. The Storm Raven had a brief moment in the spotlight before GW handily nerfed it. It was really only good in Dark Angels. It's really not great for us, especially now that it's even more points. It's 260 points. I'm sorry, I'll just take a Redeemer with better guns.
Yeah, I won't
and scarier
trash
blush.
heap it,
No. But
but
it's C tier.
it's still very expensive.
Yeah. It's probably bottom.
Towards
C
the
tier.
bottom.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you can do
I'd
some
take it before I
fun
took the
combos
Reavers.
with it.
Yeah. The three Storm Speeders. We had them in bottom-ish of C tier last time. You don't really see these guys. I don't think they're D tier, but I don't think they really move. They just, again, they don't do enough for the points, and I'd rather have something else. You know what I mean?
I like the Thunder Strike a little bit better than the other ones, simply because it does have, you're paying 160 points, but it does have a somewhat decent array of
Guns. Yeah.
guns
Yeah.
for its role.
And you get +1 to wound for your other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then if you're not able to take it down, it combos well with like a Ballistus who would want the rerolls.
Yeah.
Or add one to the rolls.
So I think they're still C tier. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just higher up than the other ones.
Yeah. So I can't tell the difference in these little pictures, guys, so forgive me. They're so small. So I think, would you take this before Centurion Devastators? I think I probably would.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I think I'd probably take them all the way up before Stern Guard next to the Rhino. I think that's where I'd probably put them. Above Stern Guard and the characters.
I would take them above. Yeah, probably above, but not higher than the Rhino.
No. All right. The Storm Talon also relegated to last place with its silly other flyer friend.
I would say it's
better.
Higher than the ATV.
Yeah.
And probably even okay. Well, we're looking at the D, so I would probably put higher end of D, honestly.
Higher end
because
of D.
it is a cheaper flyer, and it
Yeah.
does have a decent slew of
Yeah.
weaponry,
Yeah. That's fair.
but it fails as being a flyer.
Yeah. It does
But
have hover, which helps because it means you can just start on the board.
yes,
The Suppressor Squad. They were near the top of C tiers where we put them. I don't. I struggle to put them in D tier, but I don't think they're. I think they're at the bottom of C.
yeah. So I want to like these guys, but
I love the
I
models.
struggle
I
to.
love the idea of them, but I struggle to make room in a list for them.
A
Again,
debuff is powerful, but at the same time, I also want them to do
to
something
do something.
in the
Yeah,
list. And I feel like the 9 accelerated autocannon shots bounce more than I want them to.
yeah.
So
Bottom C.
yeah, not all the way at the bottom. I would say bottom third.
Bottom third. I'd take them before Desos.
Yeah,
Okay. The Tactical Squad.
I'm not taking them.
I'm not either.
They do have some play with the weaponry.
Yeah.
Um,
We had them D tier last time. I don't know if they're D tier.
no, because
Uh,
with PARIAH Nexus coming, I think that there might be some utility with them.
well, and they nerfed the hell out of Crusader squads, which was the reason why they were D tier for us because you never take them over Crusader squads. Now they got cheaper. They're only 140 points now versus 160. I think they move up to bottom of C tier.
Yeah, the very, very bottom.
Yeah.
Because combo squad is the only benefit that you
Only
get
rule
out of
that
these
they have.
guys. But they do have some utility in weaponry.
Yep. All right, the Tech Marine. We had him in A tier. Um, I think he stays in A tier. He's still got a lot of utility, a lot of play for Black Templars in a lot of different detachments. Really good unit.
Yeah, I think he's a quiet, really good unit, honestly.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a lot of tournament lists that have finished high,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not all Ironstorm. So I find that a little bit surprising, but at the same time, not really, because I mean, he's got a great slew of rules. You can make him lone op. He's a good little guy.
Yeah.
I like him, and the model is really cool.
The
Honestly,
model is really cool. I need to get the Primaris one. I only have the Firstborn guy. Yeah, so I think he's like upper end of A tier.
yeah, I would say that.
Okay. Terminator Assault Squad. We had these fellas mid-pack A tier. I think they are probably still mid-pack A tier.
Yeah, because the reasons why we discussed
Earlier,
you know,
yeah.
they're expensive. They're going to kill anything that they charge into typically, unless your dice fail you, which I've heard many stories about. But we can't control that. But
Yep.
on average, if you do the correct stratagem usage, they're insanely durable. They are able to kill the things they want. The problem is the meta right now is MSU. Most units are taking 17 to 25 units, and when you're rocking a Terminator unit, you are taking like 13, 14. So it's hard to compete.
Yep. The regular Terminator squad. We had them
Much lower.
Yeah, they were. Where do we put them? We had them in A tier too, but I don't think they're A tier. I think they're probably bottom of B tier.
Yeah, they're not C.
Yeah.
Their output is just not nearly as much. But if you can get them in close combat, they're a lot better.
Yeah. Definitely. Poor Vanguard vets are still atrociously bad, although not as bad as company vets. So, yeah, they're still D tier.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
This is where Bob is cashing in his chips.
Hear me out. Okay, so I'm gonna go out and bat for a couple of tournament players here. I'm talking to you, Grimdahl. You better be on here. All right, so this is where my chips coming into play. So he submitted for our Patreon. Can have some list reviews. At first, I was like, "Oh, Vanguard vets, throw this list away." But he was running them in Righteous Crusaders, right? And he took a 10-man assault intercessor squad. He also had the chaplain with that unit, so you get the mortal wounds. But what he did was he took 10 men of these guys, and you can take them in 5-mans. I've seen them in 5-mans as just an annoying little unit as well. But the 10-man is what I really kind of liked, and I think this is where the argument comes into play. He had the jump pack chaplain or captain with them. So what that did is he's running the accept any challenge vow with these guys so that they're going to get the sustained hits.
Mm-hmm.
So melee weapons are, we know are not quite as good as power weapons, right? But there's 4 attacks. You got the captain, so it's going to get +1 strength, so there's strength 6. Then they also get a free stratagem, which Crusader's Wrath, so you're getting them back to the 2. They're sustained hits, and you can put infernal pistols on them, which is, ups their damage significantly. You can also put storm shields on them, so I think you can actually spike them fairly high and do a ton of damage with these things. And as well, if they charge, they get lethal hits. So you can replicate a very high damage dealing unit if you're taking accept any challenge in Righteous Crusader. So this is where I'm gonna
dubious.
I'm putting all these little quarters.
So what are you jonesing for, Bob? What are you jonesing for?
I think they're out of D. I think they're out of D. I have to say it. I think they're out of D. If you do that combo.
Fine, but I'm putting them at the bottom of C tier.
Okay.
I'll put them above the tax squad.
Successful. I was successful.
All right.
I feel like they can be comboed up.
Yeah, that's a lot of specific stuff, though. But we did put a lot of niche specific things in C tier. So, all right. The Vindicator. We had it at the bottom of A tier. It might be S tier.
Oh.
It's 175 points. I've been touting this since day one. I even made a video that I posted when 10th edition launched about the Vindicator, and I blew the literal dust off of my Vindicator. and we had talked about at the beginning that it was a little too expensive at 190. Now it's 175, and I think it's really good at 175. If it's not S tier, it is the very top of A tier.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning. I don't think it's quite S tier because you don't take multiples of it. You
can though. 2 Vindicators is scary as hell.
Yes, but then you're sacrificing board control stuff because it is still 175.
Here's the other thing, and for 5 points more than a Lancer, it isn't as consistent, I would say, probably as a Lancer's damage. However, it can spike higher than a Lancer's damage, and unlike a Lancer, it can take out elite infantry easily.
Yes. Or if you really need to, because it has blast, you can throw it at some basic infantry too.
Yep.
If you need to.
Yep.
But this thing coming out of strategic reserves or even on the board is legit scary. This is one of the units that your opponent is
why I'm
legitimately afraid of.
I'm pushing going all in on S tier. All in, Bob. These are all my chips.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Bottom of S tier.
It is very durable too. Fine.
Bottom S tier. Yep.
fine.
I did it, folks. I did it.
I feel like the durability that it has, it's a 2+ save.
Uh-huh.
It's got the
You're just making my case for me.
but
So,
it's going to be targeted and killed right away. That's what scares me.
well, I mean, that's why
But
you
if it
stuff it in the
doesn't die,
strategic reserves or get it behind cover. I mean, 2+ saving cover is really gross, and it's tough 11. So all that strength 10 stuff out there is wounding it on 5s. So, yeah. Um, I mean, even if it gets targeted right away, that tells me that the opponent is really afraid of it because it's that scary. So, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good.
Now, another unit that was at the top of A tier, I think is going to drop significantly is the Whirlwind. It went up way up in points. I would probably put it in C tier at this point.
It's not D, but yeah,
it's not D.
Middle C.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it around the same spot as the. I'm gonna put it in between the 3 Storm Speeders. So
yeah, this is our main source of indirects other than the Desolators, but like you really wanted 2 of them in a list, and at 180 points, they're not much better than the Desolators in as far as what they cost you, and it's just
yeah. So that's it for the regular units. Now on to our Black Templar units. For some reason, there's not a Firstborn Crusader Squad icon here. I don't know why. They've lost a lot of value because they're not cheap anymore. Now they're 85 points. I probably wouldn't take them at all, to be honest, at 85 points. Bottom of C for them, top of D. It would be my opinion. We also know
kind of expensive.
We also know they're probably going to be gone, whenever we get our codex.
My only thing is you can take them in small units. You only have to invest, even though they are 85 points, you only have to invest 85 points, and you do get the special weapons on it.
That's true.
Bottom
C tier?
I would say bottom is C tier, but above tax.
Yeah, definitely above tax.
Above
Desos,
Reavers,
above suppressors. So that's like like mid-bottom, lower third.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us to Primaris Crusader squads, which we had in S tier, and I think they're still S tier, especially with PARIAH NEXUS coming.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yep. Would you put
you can take them in a variety of different ways? So 20-man unit
I'd probably put them above aggressors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has proven 20-man units have proven that they've been successful in tournament lists, even some winning ones. But I should note that that's one 20-man unit, not multiples.
Right.
I prefer them in 10-mans because they're just annoying enough to have to kill. Have to dedicate some firepower to them, but they still put out damage.
Yep.
So I like them a lot.
I like them a lot too. Sword Brethren, I would put them just below Infiltrators, above the Lancer. They're the closest thing to a must-take that's bespoke to us. They took a points nerf, but they are still that good.
Yes, I agree. Their ability to buff characters that are with them, that they are key with characters.
Yep.
So I don't think you take them without one.
Yep.
If you're just going to take a Sword Brethren squad, you're going to take something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the ability to make the character unit so much better in what they do. And then the spike, it's intertwined. Most units don't have the two-way rules in Space Marines. So
either one buffs the other or vice versa, but not. They're both Helbricht and them combined together to buff each other. Speaking of Helbricht, he's going right there next to him. He's also taken a points nerf since the last time that we did this, but it was deserved, and he's still worth 120.
Yes, I think he's lower than the Lancer, though.
Think so?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the
All right.
Lancer is more important in a list than Helbrecht, because you also have to consider that you can take the Judicar
Yep. Or the
or the
Emperor's
Emperor's
Champion game.
Champion.
Yep. Yeah. That's fair. That's
So
fair. Grimaldus, we had him at the very top of A tier last time. I think he's still pretty close to that.
yeah, he really only goes with that one unit.
Yep.
You're not taking him with anything else.
I'm gonna put him below the
But
lieutenant at the top of A
yes,
tier.
for sure. Um, I would actually put him underneath the Ballistas too.
So the
And the
Ballistas
reason
and the
is
Redeemer.
yes, because you see those more
True.
useful in lists in general, because
Yeah.
it's only a skew unit that you take the Grimaldus with in that particular unit. But if you're taking him, he's you have to have him with the 20 man unit.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
So
And then the Emperor's Champion we had in the A tier last time. Personally, my personal experience with him is that he is an S tier unit. He absolutely slaps with sword bros. Like, they turn him up to 11. He's crazy, crazy good. I think he'd be neck and neck with the Judiciar.
I
As far
really,
as
really, really like the Emperor's Champion as well.
Yeah.
So I've since switched my 5 man units to one Judicar and then the Emperor's Champion. And I haven't taken Helbrecht. It's a point savings for me.
Yeah.
But he's a Helbrecht light
He's
without
Helbrecht
buffing
light.
his.
He doesn't buff the
Sword Brother
squad, but they still buff the heck out of him. I've had him kill
I like
Be'lakor.
him a lot.
So the damage
like
is
him a
there.
lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot too.
I'm open to disagreements on that, but this is where I'm going to throw my bias in a little bit in my experience.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. And then that brings us lastly to our two generic characters, the Castellan and the Marshal. Sadly, these guys, you're never going to take them over the generic counterpart because the generic counterpart has better weapon options. It used to be they were a little cheaper, which made them nice. Now, I'm just thinking of shuttling them to D tier because there's no reason to run the actual data sheet over their generic counterpart. Especially the lieutenant, who not only has a better weapon option in the Power Fist, but has more attacks with the Mastercrafted power weapon.
I agree.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. I love the model. But,
Oh yeah, the models are amazing. I mean, use the models for something. Use the Marshal for. I actually converted my Marshal to be magnetized, his sword arm to be magnetized, so I can have an axe, a sword, a power fist. So use it for a captain. But yeah. So ran a little bit over there, but that is our tier list, guys, for the current meta of Space Marines with Black Templar flavoring, with PARIAH Nexus on the horizon. Let us know what you guys think if you're watching this after the fact. Let us know what you think down in the comments about our choices. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Don't forget to click all the algorithm buttons for YouTube, like, subscribe, the bell, all the thingy doos. And don't forget to check out our partner, Baron of Dice. And there should be an affiliate link down in the description. Use that to buy dice from him. Use discount code IN40K to save a little bit of money on your order. And, his dice are awesome. We are working on some new dice. Hopefully, maybe later this year we'll have those out. It can take him some time to get spooled up on stuff, but we are going to start doing probably some limited run dice, like limited edition dice. I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, he's becoming very popular and one of the main suppliers of dice for a lot of content crusade
Yep.
creators.
Yep.
So we were one of the OGs
Yep.
for them, but he makes some very quality dice.
Yep.
And does an excellent job. He does have some higher shipping because he's US based to Europe. But
yep.
he does have some partners in Europe that he works with to help reduce those prices. So
Yep.
definitely get in touch with them and
Yep.
we can get those squared away.
Absolutely. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. Thank you to all of our Patreon patrons. We greatly appreciate your support. And I will have we have the Gladius detachment video coming. I should have that out for you guys tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that, along with some new Templar tips videos. I've got a couple of really good Templars tips videos that I've recorded that'll be coming out soon. So be on the lookout for those. And until next time, guys, keep on crusading. Have a great